Okay, picture this. An ancient civilization, right up there with Egypt and Mesopotamia, but sprawling across an area bigger than both of them combined. A civilization with these perfectly planned cities, the world's very first urban sanitation systems, and a mysterious script that even today we can't read. And then, poof, it just vanished. For thousands of years, its entire story was lost, just buried under the dirt. So today, we are cracking open one of history's greatest cold cases. Let's dive into this incredible archaeological detective story, the rise and fall of the magnificent Indus Valley civilization. Now, to really get why this discovery was such a bombshell, you have to understand the world at the time. Back in the early 20th century, the story being told was that India's history was pretty much stagnant until outsiders came along. While when archaeologists dug up Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, it sent a shockwave across the globe. All of a sudden, here was proof, undeniable proof, of this incredibly advanced, homegrown urban civilization that was thriving thousands of years ago. It completely rewrote the history books and shattered that old colonial narrative. So how does that even happen? How does a civilization of this sheer size just get lost? For centuries, its ruins were just seen as weird mounds in the ground, places people would go to grab old bricks for new buildings. Nobody had a clue they were standing on top of what was basically a Bronze Age superpower. The story of how it was found again is almost as fascinating as the civilization itself. The first little hints started popping up way back in 1842, when a British explorer, Charles Masson, made a note about these strange brick mounds at a site called Harappa. But the real breakthrough didn't come for another 80 years. In 1921, an Indian archaeologist named Dayram Sani started the first real dig at Harappa. Just a year later, another archaeologist, R.D. Banerjee, stumbled on a similar site hundreds of miles away, Mohenjo-daro. The puzzle pieces were finally starting to click into place. But it was the big announcement in 1924 by John Marshall, the head of the Archaeological Survey of India, that changed everything. He told the world about this vast, unknown Bronze Age civilization, and just like that, history had a brand new chapter. So what exactly did they find that was so revolutionary? What made the world's top historians and archaeologists just stop and stare? What was this blueprint that made the Indus Valley one of the most advanced civilizations of its time? Well, first things first, let's place them on the map. The Indus Valley Civilization, or the IVC, wasn't some isolated group. Nope. They were a major player on the world stage, living at the same time as the great civilizations in Mesopotamia and ancient Egypt. We actually have proof of really solid trade networks connecting all of them. But, while Egypt had its pyramids and Mesopotamia had its ziggurats, the IVC's claim to fame was something way more practical and, honestly, way more modern. The first thing that absolutely blew everyone's mind was the cities themselves. You see, unlike most ancient cities that just grew messy and chaotic over time, Indus cities were planned. They were laid out on a grid, kind of like modern cities like New York. This points to a really powerful central government that had incredible foresight. I mean, this was deliberate, sophisticated urban design on a scale the world had literally never seen before. And they had a formula for it, a template they used again and again. Most cities had this raised, fortified area called the Citadel, probably where the VIPs and important public buildings were. Then you had the much larger lower town, where everybody else lived in these really well-built brick houses. The streets, a perfect grid, crossing at perfect right angles. And maybe the most amazing part of all, they had a complex underground drainage system. Almost every single house was hooked up to these covered drains that whisked wastewater away. It was the world's first known urban sanitation system. Just think about that for a second. And just look at the engineering skill on display here. This is the Great Bath at Mohenjo-daro. It's this huge, public, watertight pool, about 12 meters long, built with perfectly laid baked bricks. To make sure it didn't leak, they sealed it with a layer of natural tar. It's an absolute masterpiece. Now, we don't really see any huge temples, so the leading theory is that the Great Bath was probably used for important religious ceremonies or ritual bathing, a practice that's still central to many faiths in that part of the world today. Okay, so we've seen their incredible cities, but what about the people who actually lived there? Since we can't read their writing, our best shot at understanding their world, their beliefs, their day-to-day lives, comes from the stuff they left behind. And this is where the real detective work kicks in. Every little pot, every seal, every figurine is a clue. And archaeologists have found a treasure trove of these clues. We're talking beautiful stone sculptures, unbelievably detailed bronze statues, and tons of these little terracotta or clay figurines. We have thousands of their intricate seals, which are these tiny little carved masterpieces. And of course, all kinds of pottery and personal jewelry that tell us about their style and daily lives. So let's look at a few of the most famous pieces of evidence. Check this out. This is one of the most iconic faces from the ancient world. People often call him the priest king. He was carved from soapstone, and just look at the detail. That patterned robe over his shoulder, the perfectly groomed beard, the half-closed meditative eyes. That calm, formal look on his face has led a lot of people to think he was some kind of authority figure, maybe a priest, maybe a king, or maybe in their society, those two jobs were the same thing. And then we have this absolute gem, the dancing girl. Now, this bronze statue is tiny, only about 4 inches tall, but it is just bursting with personality. Look at that confident pose, her arm just stacked with bangles, her head tilted back. What's so incredible isn't just the art, it's the technology behind it. She was made using the lost wax casting technique, which is a super sophisticated method that takes incredible skill. It proves they were masters of metalworking, and it's a tradition that actually continued in India for thousands of years. But maybe the most fascinating clues of all come from their seals. These were small carved objects, probably used to stamp clay to mark goods for trade. Thousands have been found, but this one is special. It's called the Pashupati seal. It shows this seated figure in a yoga-like pose, maybe with 3 faces and horns. And he's surrounded by animals, an elephant, a tiger, a rhino, and a buffalo. Some experts think this could be an early version of the Hindu god Shiva in his role as Pashupati, the lord of animals. It's a powerful little peek into a mythology that we can only guess at. And that brings us to the biggest brick wall standing between us and the Indus people, their writing. This is the Indus script. We find it on thousands of seals, on pottery, on tablets. It's made of pictures and symbols. But here's the massive problem. After 100 years of trying, the best code breakers and linguists in the world have not been able to crack it. It is one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. Their stories, their laws, the names of their gods and kings, it's all locked away, and we still don't have the key. Which brings us to the ultimate mystery. You have this massive, organized, technologically advanced civilization, and then around 1900 BCE, things start to go downhill. The cities are slowly abandoned, the writing just stops, and the unique culture starts to fade. It leaves us with the one question that has haunted historians for a century. Where did they all go? So one of the first theories was a big, violent invasion. The early archaeologists at Mohenjo-daro found these groups of unburied skeletons, and it led to this dramatic story of a final massacre by invaders. But, modern archaeology has found almost no evidence to back that up. The skeletons show few signs of violence, there are no layers of ash from a city being burned, no caches of weapons. The idea of a single knockout punch invasion just doesn't seem to fit the evidence anymore. Today, a much stronger suspect has emerged: climate change. And the evidence here is pretty compelling. The Indus civilization depended entirely on the massive rivers for their farms. But we now know that around this time, some major environmental shifts were happening. Some rivers may have just dried up completely, while others might have flooded catastrophically. On top of that, weaker monsoons could have led to long droughts and ruined the soil. For a society built on farming, that would have been an absolute disaster. Another theory points to a slow internal breakdown, basically a system collapse. The idea here is that a whole bunch of factors just chipped away at the civilization's foundations. Things like earthquakes could have damaged cities and messed with the rivers. Their trade networks with Mesopotamia, which was having its own problems, might have fallen apart, crippling their economy. As things got tougher and the central government got weaker, the whole complex urban system may have just unraveled. So in the end, there was no single smoking gun. The Great Disappearance wasn't one big event, but a slow, gradual decline over centuries. It was probably a perfect storm: a changing climate, failing trade routes, and maybe internal instability. The pressures just kept mounting, and the great cities were eventually abandoned as people moved back to smaller, simpler farming villages. The cities fell silent, the script was forgotten, and this great civilization faded first into legend and then into total obscurity. But did it really vanish completely? Or can we still hear the echoes of the Indus even today? What's really staggering is the scale of this collapse. After the Harappan cities fell, it took about 1,500 years for cities of a similar size and complexity to show up again in the Indian subcontinent. The end of the IBC wasn't just a change in leadership, it was the end of an entire urban age, leaving this huge void in the region's history. And yet, their legacy is still with us. These people were true pioneers. They gave the world its first great planned cities and urban sanitation. Evidence shows they were probably the first people to figure out how to grow cotton and weave it into cloth. Their art still inspires us, and their mysteries, well, they keep us guessing. They proved that thousands of years ago, a brilliant civilization could rise up and build a world of incredible order and sophistication. And that leaves us with this final, lingering thought. The story of the Indus Valley is, in a way, a lesson in humility. It reminds us that even the greatest societies can be fragile. I mean, if a civilization this huge, this organized, and this advanced could be so completely lost to time, only to be found again by chance, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other stories, what other lost worlds are still lying in silence, waiting to be found right beneath our feet?